For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. I've been a wrestling fan for a lot of years, and I've seen a lot of different companies do things, and I've seen a lot of different companies rise and fall. Now, I'm not a guy whose first love of wrestling came from Vince McMahon and WWF. I was a wrestling fan before WWF rose to prominence with Hulk Hogan in the 80s. So, when I say I've seen a lot of companies and when I say I've seen a lot of things, you can pretty much take that to the bank. And AEW is the hot new company on the block. And I must say that I am definitely a fan of All Elite Wrestling. I like a lot of what they do. But I believe that AEW is making one huge but correctable mistake that could hold them back from being the best company on the planet. The mistake that AEW is making is not the fact that they are signing a bunch of what people would call WWE cast-offs, people who have been released from WWE contracts, people like Brody Lee, Malakai Black, Bryan Danielson, though he let his contract expire, please don't correct me on that, Jon Moxley, and others who have either asked for releases or have been outright fired by WWE, Ruby Soho. That's not the problem. The problem is the way they are being introduced to the public. Now, John Huber, Brody Lee, he was brought in as a guy who was consorting with bad guys, but he was an honorable man. So the fans who wanted to love him could love him, but because he was consorting with bad guys, the Dark Order was a heel faction at this time, could say, okay, I'm not a fan of his. And then when they sent him after the TNT title, it wasn't that this bad guy was facing this good guy. It was that an honorable man who was consorting with bad guys was chasing Cody Rhodes in the title. Now, Miro, the former Rusev, was brought in as a fun-loving guy who liked video games, and he was hanging out with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, and then he decided to beat the snot out of Kip Sabian. And we have not actually heard from Kip Sabian since that meeting. And then he chased the TNT title that was being held by Darby Allin. So he never at any point said, I'm a bad guy, don't cheer me. He just became a more intense guy and decided to only fight babyface wrestlers. But he never said, I'm a bad guy. He's never said, I'm going to cheat to win. He never said, I'm going to badmouth anybody else. He just became a more intense guy, and it just so happens that all of his opponents, since he won the TNT title, have been good guys. Now, the mistake is the way they introduced Malakai Black. They brought in Malakai Black and basically told the fans Malakai Black's going to be a bad guy. He's going to go after the Nightmare family. He's going to go after Cody Rhodes. He's going to kick Arn Anderson in the head. He's going to beat up Lee Johnson. He's going to beat up Dustin Rhodes. He would have beat up Brandy if she hadn't been pregnant. That was a mistake. And the reason it was a mistake was because wrestling fans, and keep in mind, I've always made a distinction between wrestling fans and WWE fans. And if you want to message me, I can give you that distinction if you haven't already heard it. But wrestling fans understand that Malakai Black, the former Aleister Black in WWE, may have been underutilized, may have been used incorrectly, may not have been used to his full potential or in the right situations. So when he shows up at AEW, the fans want to cheer him. The fans want to love him because he was a guy they were fans of, and he was a guy who they felt was underutilized. So he shows up in AEW, and he goes after probably the top babyface faction in the company, with the possible exception of the Inner Circle. And he beats up Cody Rhodes, steals his boot, beats up Lee Johnson, kicks Arn Anderson in the head, beats up Dustin Rhodes, and then beats up Cody Rhodes again. And now he's still very popular with the fans because his presentation is great, his ring work is great, his promos are great, everything he's doing is better than the work he was doing in WWE. The problem is, if you're going to continue to have him battling Cody Rhodes, at some point, the fans are going to turn on somebody. And since they really want to cheer Malakai Black because they feel like he was underutilized and misrepresented in WWE, then it will be the Rocky sucks situation all over again. Cody's supposed to be a good guy, but because they're cheering for Malakai Black, then Cody Rhodes is a bad guy. The cool heel makes the babyface hated. It happened in WWE with John Cena. It happened in WWE with Roman Reigns. It happened when Rocky fought Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. The fans cheered Hogan so much that The Rock, who was the most popular guy in WWE at the time, ended up wrestling a heel match against Hogan just because somebody had to be the heel in the match because they were booing Rocky. And the last time Cody Rhodes faced Malakai Black, the fans cheered Malakai Black and booed Cody Rhodes. So if they had presented Malakai Black as an honorable man who's looking for an opportunity and then had him go after just anybody and work his way to Cody Rhodes, the fans would have been able to see which way Malakai Black was going to go. Like Adam Cole, when he came out and goes, who's ready for story time with Adam Cole? And everybody's going, boom, Adam Cole, baby. But then he's hanging with the bad guys and he's beating the snot out of Jungle Boy and Christian. So they boo him while he's in the ring, but they love him on his entrance. Malakai Black could have been made into a heel the way they made MJF into a heel when he was at first best friends with Cody, and then he joined the Inner Circle and was best friends with Jericho. They could have made Malakai Black into a top heel if they had brought him in as a neutral guy, as an honorable man who just so happens to be consorting with bad people like John Huber and like Miro. But it's a mistake that's correctable. And the way you correct the mistake is don't do it again. If you're going to sign a WWE cast-off, bring them in and let them consort with bad people if being a heel is what you want them to do, but don't have them be so super heelish that they're going after the most popular babyface. Don't have them come in and cut Chris Jericho's hair. Don't have them come in and put Jungle Boy in the hospital. Don't have them come in and break Marco Stunt's leg. Have them come in, have their matches, have their alliances, and then figure out which way the fans want to take them. And I say this as a piece of advice and as a warning, because if the rumors are true and Bray Wyatt is coming to All Elite Wrestling, you will need to be careful with the way you present him because you may damage someone else in the process. Because now Cody Rhodes is in a situation where after last night's show, Arn Anderson dropped him as a client, which means that either Arn Anderson and Lee Johnson are going to be heels against Cody and Dustin, or Cody will be a heel against Arn Anderson and Lee Johnson, and Dustin has to figure out which way he wants to go. It's a mistake. It's a problem that you never should have had. So I'm just saying, as somebody who's watched wrestling for more than 40 years, I'm just saying, when you present these guys, recognize that the fans want to love them because they weren't given the opportunity when they were in WWE. Bring them along slowly. Allow them to develop either their heel tendencies or their babyface tendencies, and then figure out what you want to do with them. And then once you do, the fans will go along for the ride. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And follow me on Facebook at Eric J on Sports 1 and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J on Sports. For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think.